Hello, hello, my little dears. It's your teacher, Mrs. Fordyce. Here is your day 2 notes for Unit 3. So by the time you're done with these and the other ones, we are well on our way to being ready to test. So what's going to happen is when I see you on the next Friday that we have class, we'll do a quick review of this, and then we'll do a lab, and then we will do our test. So it's pretty exciting. We're going to be able to do a lot more fun stuff in class. Hands-on stuff, and earn some more points that way. So I want you to take out your Unit 3 Session 2 guided notes, and we are going to get started. Okay, so here's a little review. Our review says that sexual reproduction creates unique gene combinations. Remember in that magical, crazy, unexplainable, uncontrollable thing where sperm meets egg? Nobody has control over that. You don't know which genes are going to be in what egg or what sperm. So that's going to create unique gene combinations. There's no possible way you can make any of that happen. Next up is that independent assortment. Remember that's a thing from Greg Mendel in the last unit? And also crossing over leads to genetic diversity. Remember, crossing over was the thing where you had the X's and the colors, and like these two parts switched so that you would have 4 unique combinations. That's from Unit 2. So, see how the next thing in your notes says a little something from Mrs. Casey Perry? I don't know if you know, but that's me. I made up a song, just like my teacher idol, Mr. Parr. We are going to use this more than once. We're going to use it specifically in Unit 4, next unit. But this has something to do with this one, too. So, here's a little thing from me to you. Hopefully you don't fast forward me. I know it's painful, but it's got some good information. So, here goes nothing. Double strands made of proteins, they contain all of my genes, then they need to replicate, that's DNA. Codes they tell the genotype, how they look is phenotype, homozygous means the same, that's DNA. 3 base pairs make up a codon, amino acids get turned on, have to line up or it's wrong, that's DNA. Natural selection is so cool, adapt and change or be a fool, that's DNA. Do it all again in all of our cells. C-G-A-T, C-G-A-T. Diddle-diddle-doo. Kenny G solo. Okay, is that you clapping? I hear you clapping. Thanks, guys. All right, I'll spare you. Here we go. Turn the page. So, here we have incomplete dominance. So, incomplete dominance is when a heterozygous phenotype. Remember, hetero means different. That it's somewhere in between 2 homozygous phenotypes. Here's an example, and you guys, hey, FYI, this is on the test, so do whatever you need to do. Here is an example. Is right here, you can see a red flower and a white flower. If we were to breed these in a garden, and we made a Punnett, and after we bred them, we see that they're all 4 options are pink flowers. Incomplete dominance would be there, because incomplete means really neither one is like dominant. Neither one is saying, I'm the dominant one, I'm expressed. They're both kind of equal dominant, so that's how you get the pink, because maybe you remember from old school art class that when you mix red and white, you would get pink. So you need to know that on the test. Do whatever you have to do to remember it. Next would be called codominance. So codominance is when both traits are fully and separately expressed. So, like with the last one, when you matched a red flower with a white flower and you got a pink flower, in this case, you're going to match a red flower and a white flower, and you're going to get this pretty guy here. Basically like red and white polka dotted. This is absolutely a question on the test, the difference between incomplete dominance and codominance. Remember that prefix co, like cooperate, work together. We use that all the time in science. Codominance, work together. They're both expressed. Next, we have something called polygenic traits. In science, poly means many. Polygenic, many genes produced by 2 or more genes. Here's an example, is that skin color. If we were in class, it would have us look around the room right now, and we would see that no two people's skin color is the same. When you think about it, skin color is so unique. And actually, 4 different genes have to interact to produce those colors. So over here, you'll see, here's the Punnett square for that. That's going to be on the test. Just kidding. You don't really have to do one like that. But can you imagine 4 different genes working together and you had to fill in that whole Punnett square? You can see that there's just so many different options. Another example of polygenic trait is eye color. Eye color is at least 3 genes working together. Another example of a polygenic trait would be height. So many of our traits are not as simple as, oh, let's just make a Punnett square. It's just 2, 2 from my mom and 2 from my dad. It's actually a combination of genes. So geneticists would say, I don't know, that Punnett square is not really that good of a way of figuring things out, because realistically, genetics is just more complicated than that. Let's talk about chromosomes. So remember, chromosomes are those X's. Remember we talked about the DNA inside, and it's like a noodle, and it's like a ramen noodle, and then they make X's. We made those with Play-Doh in our lab. Remember that? So what we all have, remember how many do we have? We have 46 or 23 pairs. Now, the first 22, numbers 1 through 22, are called autosomes. In science, the word auto means self. We have 1 extra chromosome. So if you can see in this chart over here that, see this chart here, you can see that there's all of these different chromosomes. And then right here is the 23rd chromosome. And you see how it has an X and a Y? That's for boys and girls. These are, they're called sex chromosomes. So that's kind of easy to understand. I mean, it's not like sex. It's like, what is your gender? Sex chromosomes. Now, what's interesting, so if a boy is XY and girls are XX. So let's do a Punnett square, and I'm going to show you how the boy is actually the one that determines the gender. So he can't get mad. Obviously we have no control over it, but he can't get mad. So there on your notes, see how you have XX? That's going to be a girl. Also, if you want to know the abbreviation for girl, it looks like this. XY is a boy. Boy's abbreviation is this. Maybe you've seen those symbols before. Anyway, so now you know. So if we, sorry, I'm just getting used to this thing. So let's make a Punnett square that's going to be for gender. Now, remember we make the Punnett square, we make 4 boxes. I'm going to put the mom at the top. The mom, we know automatically she has 2 X's, unless there's a problem, which I guess could happen, but it's pretty rare. So this is the mom. She has 2 X's. The dad has an X and a Y. So if these 2 get together, it's going to be XX. Congratulations, it's a girl. How about these 2? These 2 get together. XX. Another chance of a girl. These 2 get together. XY. So if it has a Y, we know it's a boy. No other options. Here's another XY. So in summary, in theory, you have exactly a 50-50 chance of having a boy or a girl. And we know there's no way to control it. It just should be, if you get a healthy baby, you should just be happy about it. All right, next up. Sex-linked genes. So there's certain genes that are located specifically on that 23rd chromosome, which is the sex chromosome. Now, the X chromosome carries more information than the Y chromosome. Why would that be? I'm hoping you're thinking, oh, I know, because they both have an X. So it kind of makes more sense for the X chromosome to have more information on it. Because if the Y chromosome had a ton of information, then the girls wouldn't have that information, or vice versa. Now, sex-linked disorders are usually caused by recessive alleles on the X chromosome. That's interesting. I'm going to show you guys what that's going to look like in a second. Now, females, they're going to be more likely to be carriers. Now, if they're a carrier, it means you probably can't tell that they have the disorder. Whereas males will more likely be affected. And that they're, let's see, that appears on the X chromosome even if they're recessive. So, if males are affected, then they're not going to have another X to mask the bad trait. So, there in your blank, sorry, I got off a little bit. If you didn't get it, where it says males will blank, here it is. Males will express any gene on that appears on the X chromosome. So, express any gene. That's you guys' blank there, the last one on that page. Now, when it says mask a recessive trait, so when it says mask, I want you to think like, kind of like Halloween mask, right? So let's do a Punnett square of somebody that has whose parent has a disorder. So let's make the Punnett square, and let's say that the mom, so this is the mom, and let me do that in red. Let's say that her second X has a disorder. Perhaps we could use albinism. I don't know if you know what albino is. It's the, the absence of pigment in your skin. So if this is the mom, these two X's, if this is the mom, we know that albinism is a recessive disorder. So we have this good X right here, and this is dominant. So if we have a dominant allele, we know that this one will be present but not expressed. Not expressed. So we know that they're not going to have the disorder, but she is a carrier of the disorder. So let's fill in our Punnett square here. So we've got the good X from the mom, we've got the XY from the dad, and then remember the mom, she's going to give these two X's. Well, who knows which X she's going to give because we don't have any control over that. Now, if these two get together, it's a girl. Does she have the disorder? Hopefully you said no. Okay, now the next two get together. It's a girl again. Does she have the disorder? Trick question. No, she does not. She is a carrier of the disorder. However, she does not have it, so she is not albino. Now, if these two get together, it's a boy. Does he have the disorder? He doesn't, no, because he doesn't have the bad X. He has the good X. Now, if these two got together, this is when the boy would have the disorder. So if the mom has is a carrier, then it's a 50-50 chance that her son would have the disorder and a 0% chance that her daughter would have the disorder. Hopefully that's making sense. If not, we will definitely be talking about it some more when we are in class next time. So, some common sex-linked traits or disorders. Here's some common ones. One would be called hemophilia. If you know anything about science, maybe you know hemo refers to blood. Philic, if something is philic, it means loving. So it's like basically when your blood does not clot. Next up is color blindness. I wonder if any of you boys are colorblind. It's very rare for a girl to be colorblind, but boys can definitely be colorblind. And finally is baldness. My dad is super bald, and we know that it's a sex-linked disorder. It's gonna so one of my exes has a, like, X chromosomes, not like ex-boyfriends. One of my exes has a bald gene on it. So if I had a boy, hopefully it would be okay. You can see here this pedigree chart. This is for like the royal family, like, you know, Prince William and all those guys. So way back in the day, they had hemophilia. And you can see here, so this is called a pedigree chart, which we'll talk about in a moment. And it is going to follow traits. We're going to do this in our lab when you guys come in on that Friday. So, pedigree. Pedigree is a chart for tracing genes in a family. It's exactly what we just looked at. That chart I just made an arrow to. We show boxes or squares for males. We show, so over here, boxes for males, we show circles for females. Now, if it's shaded, it means the person has the trait. If it's unshaded, it means the person does not have the trait. And finally, if it's half shaded, it means they could be a carrier of the trait. So who the heck cares, right? I mean, isn't it like you have no control over anything anyway? You might as well just like let the universe decide. Yes and no. Nowadays, it's so much more common to be able to do some genetic testing. So a lot of people will do, it's called genetic counseling. And a lot of people will lay all their family history on the table, and a person whose job it is to be a genetic counselor is going to make pedigree charts and try to figure out what is the chance of their child having the trait. There's some things that, I mean, it would be worth it with, because there's some diseases and problems that really could make, I mean, it's like where like your baby dies like right when it comes out. You know, you'd probably want to know that you had the chance of that. So that's modern science there for us. Next up, you know, if you're looking at a pedigree chart, this is just a little more about pedigree, so notice we're using some of our new vocab right here. So you can use a pedigree chart to predict genotypes by looking at the phenotypes. So remember when I sang to you, codes, they tell the genotype, how they look is phenotype. Pheno, P for physical. Remember I told you guys that. Codes, it would be like this, like big B, little b. Phenotype then would be, for example, brown eyes. If we're looking at a pedigree chart and you see that females and males, they're about the same in their expression, then you'll know it's an autosomal trait. Remember what an autosome is that's chromosomes 1 through 22. Remember that if it's a sex-linked trait, it's just going to be on that chromosome 23 where it's the XX or the XY. Now, there's something called a karyotype. Karyotype is a picture of all the chromosomes in the cell. These are something that doctors can actually fairly easily do nowadays. It is when they use a chemical and they stain your chromosomes, and then they can figure out what is on what gene. Remember the last lesson I talked to you about the locus of the gene. So that is something that you need to know, you know, that's the address of where a certain trait is. So they would be looking at the different, here you can see they're looking at something called Klinefelters. Here they're looking at Down syndrome. They know it's down here. It's on this chromosome, on the 21st chromosome. They would know, and then they would be able to tell you if your child had Down syndrome. If you're not sure what Down syndrome is, it's like on that show, Secret Life of the American Teenager, the brother has Down syndrome. Secret word of the day. Today's secret word is panda bear. Hey, I use two types of bears. I've got to venture out, huh? Panda bears. So I need 2 emails from you. One needs to say it's the password from the other one, and one needs to say this. If I don't get them, you will not get full credit on your unit, and that's going to be a sad day for you, because that's how I'm going to know you didn't really watch this. So send me an email. Remember my email, sfordice@emsofl, OFL like the school.com. Please excuse my sloppy writing. Here's your last. Is that things happen. So maybe you're looking at these pictures and you're like, the one here on the left, you're like, oh man, something's wrong with him. Yeah, he has Down syndrome. So remember, that's on the 21st chromosome. Now, when we're really in class, I always get the same question, so I'm going to answer it here for you, is how come everyone with Down syndrome looks exactly the same? Well, first of all, they don't look exactly the same, but a big reason for that is because it is actually on that exact 21st chromosome. So a good hypothesis would be that the 21st chromosome determines the set of the eyes, also their hands. I don't know why I'm making circles, like I guess I'm having you picture where his hands are. The hands, usually look about kind of similar. They're kind of shorter fingers. This guy, he looks pretty normal, right? He has a genetic disorder called Klinefelters, and he's okay. Down here, you'll see these guys. They look pretty normal at childhood, and then you can see they have a very similar look here with this genetic disorder. Even though they're different races, they still have a similar look, and that would be from their disorder. So I believe I gave you guys your homework as well. So before I see you, this is what you should have. 2 days of notes. I'm going to send this in your email too. 2 days of notes. Here's the other thing you should have. 2 pages of homework. I mean it. If you're not doing that homework, you are SOL, and you are not going to be able to get credit for this unit. You will have to do a 60-page packet instead. Lastly, 1 study guide. If for some reason I didn't give these to you, speak up. Send me an email, dude, because I'm pretty sure I did, but nobody's nerfect, and I might have forgotten. All right, toodaloo. See you guys in class.